So last night at the disco, who was there in the room when Sherry Bagley went up on stage and said, guess what? We've just extended the disco an extra hour. Yeah? This woman knows how to put on a party. Okay, but that and a lot of the other things that we do here at AEE costs a lot of money. If you would be interested in donating to AEE to help support the conferences, and all the great work that AEE does, this is an opportunity. If you would like to donate to AEE, we would love your support. So check that out if you're interested. Speaking of the disco last night, there was a lot of work that has gone into not just that, but this entire conference. If you were a part of the service crew or volunteered, would you please stand up? Yes. And Matt's way back there in the sound booth. Dan Miller has been doing that. Also want to give an extra special shout out to, there's someone that you may not even have known was here. Peter Barry is sitting back here behind this curtain. Peter, will you come out here? This guy is running our video backstage. It is his first AEE conference. Yeah. Thank you, Peter. I don't think he knew he'd be sitting behind a curtain for all the keynotes. But he's been amazing. Some other people we would like to thank. Callie, Anna, and Sherry, could you please stand up? These three are what made this conference possible. Thank you. Not only do they make this conference possible, but I can tell you they are super easy to work with. Like, just if y'all don't know this, we had a massive AV issue about an hour ago. Okay, cool. How are we gonna figure this out? We're running around getting a different projector. No big deal. Problems, we're solving them. So that's what they do. So y'all, thank you. You're just the work you put into it. We can see here at the conference. So we appreciate it. Yeah. Some other people I want to thank are John Losey and Dan Miller have been, mostly I think John more than anything, have been a part of making sure the virtual attendees have everything they need and really making this conference a hybrid opportunity. We have people from all over the world who are participating. So John, who's in the back, Dan, I don't know where you are, but thank you very much. We really appreciate you. All right, just want to get your mind thinking about later on. Tonight, just a heads up, we have regional meetings that are happening in the Ware building. That's the same place the Connection Expo has been happening. When you go there, I don't know if I should say meetings, it's maybe more of just like a gathering, but each of the different regions has a flag, and so you can go in, look for the flag that has your region, whether you're southeast, mid-south, northwest, whatever your region is. You can go find your people and hang out with them for a little bit. And then we have at the end, we have this amazing music experience. And I just realized maybe that's why Dan Miller is not. Dan Miller, are you in the room? Okay, so, all right, so we have, you know how you have this, I don't know if you've had this experience, but you find out that somebody you know is like really amazing at something and you're like, what? I had no idea. You know, it's like your next door neighbor, you found out was like a Nobel Prize winner or something like crazy like that, right? You're like, what? I just see him out there mowing his lawn. Yeah, so we have 4 people like that in AE who are musicians, and I don't think they're in the room. I think they're out getting ready for this evening. Oh, they are? Oh, would you guys stand up? This crew, they are going to be part of this group, the Techno Folk Extravaganza. So come tonight, live music from our very own AE folks. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. That's in Washburn, so check that out. All right, you might remember a long time ago on Thursday when I asked you to set an intention for the conference. Yes, do you remember? Thank you. Someone remembers. I know many people have come by the Climber Cards booth to get a sticker representing their intention, and I loved it because people were like, Amy, this was mine, I'm taking this sticker, is that cool? I'm like, absolutely. Like, take any sticker you want. You might have changed your mind, it's okay. But anyway, we want to check in again about that. So here are a few of the responses that made it through the horrible Wi-Fi on day one. But I want you to think about what was your intention and how did that go for you? And so I just want to give you a minute to turn to a neighbor. You have about 30 seconds each. Should just be like, how's your intention going? Like, yeah, I got a little work to do before 8 p.m. or before midnight, or oh my gosh, I have totally met my intention and I'm thrilled. So I'm gonna give you about a minute total, and then I'm gonna bring you back by just raising my hand and saying, come on back. And that's your cue to finish your sentence, but not your whole paragraph. Got it? Cool. And if you want to read some of these, you can. But turn to a neighbor, someone behind you, lean forward, and someone in front of you, and just chat about your intentions real quick.
Behind you, over your shoulders, so
Totally.
you can see silhouette.
All right, come on back, AE. Come on back. All right. Raise your hand if you feel like you have absolutely met your intention. Where are you at with that? Okay, over half of you, sweet. Who feels like, I got a little work to do before we end? Okay, a few people are still doing some work on that. All right, good. Well, I hope it's been, has it been a good conference for you? All right, that's awesome. We still have a lot more. So we have another award to give this afternoon. This is the Organization of the Year Award. This is presented to an organization that maintains innovative and outstanding programming at continuously high standards and demonstrates consistent commitment to and support for the work of AEE. This award originated in 1997, along with many of our other awards. The Children Are Our Future incorporates, supports, and promotes leaders working on diverse and grassroots intergenerational projects benefiting communities around the country and internationally. They commit to engaging people of different cultures, economic status, ethnicity, ages, and genders to work together to support youth and the adults in their lives with a shared vision. They do this with a powerful community of youth, connected project directors, volunteers, and community leaders by providing transformational leadership and experiential community-based programs that utilize art, music, dance, sports, health, wellness, fitness, recreation, environmental education, cultural exchange, and service learning. They do a lot. Their first project involved an 8,000-mile solo cross-country bicycle trip from Boston, Massachusetts to San Francisco, California, that connected people and communities of over 26 states, including Hawaii. Founder Terry Williams is the one who did that trek, and I guess it was a trick, and is the founder of Children Are Our Future. Please welcome Terry Williams. Congratulations, Terry. Oh my God.
Hi, babe. Just to let you know, we're 10.5 kilometers in.
Thank you so much, everybody. And I am a little hoarse, but not because I'm sick. It's because I have had so much fun. I've been yelling and dancing and laughing, and I'm having congratulations on an awesome conference. So, yeah. So, it's an honor and a privilege to receive this award, and I'm receiving it, and I'm doing my homework, letting the love in, because I am the founder. However, I could not have done this without the support of many, many people, including on that solo cross-country bike ride. Yes, I was solo, but many people supported me along the way, physically and spiritually. Speaking of, I want to acknowledge the virtual community and people internationally too, because we have an international project we just brought on too. So, but I want to thank a couple people. First of all, I want to ask anyone who is involved with the Children Are Our Future as a current project director or volunteer or alumni project director, please stand up so you can get acknowledged. And I see some people way back there, Mari Lung, Savannah somewhere. And then I want to acknowledge Francine over here. She is a dear friend, a board member, and a champion for this work. She didn't even understand what the heck I was talking about, and people thought I was crazy when I told them I was going to ride 8,000 miles cross country. But talk about dedication and commitment. We don't do anything alone. What inspired this organization and what inspires me to keep coming back to AEE is love and belonging. And I so love that we've added that. And I don't know where the research started around belonging, but I think it's something, again, we have all been doing for a very, very long time. So I just want to acknowledge my different communities in AEE here. So my TAPG folks, where are you? Thank you. When I got here, I got some of the most wonderful and strongest hugs I've ever received, and I'm just feeling that and letting that in. Are there folks from the West region here? Any people from the West region? Give it up. Okay, all right. That's another community I helped put on the conference in the West region. I also want to acknowledge the kids that are here. Are there kids here? No? Okay, they're out playing. And a Tuesday, thank you Tuesday for everything you've been doing. I love that you have kids here. So thank you so much. That is my passion, okay? So I want to say something really briefly about our projects and what our model is. It is a unique model. Like I said, we don't do anything without the support of each other, right? We have 15 projects current and 8 former projects. And I'm proud we've got Kim over here who started Growing Greatness, and so one of the things that happens, there are people that want to start 501c3s but don't know how to do that. So they partner and collaborate with us. So I don't know if you recognize Latino Outdoors. Anybody know about that organization? We supported them in the beginning, and Outdoors Empowered, and we have awesome crew. We've got 3 adventure therapy programs. I'm just going to yell it out right here. Wild Heart, Adventure Therapy, New Adventures Counseling, Life Adventures, right back there. And one of my favorite projects, Ricky, the Puppetry Institute. I'm going to get him to our conference one of these days. So with that, I want to thank you, and I want to invite you, if there are any kids here, to please stand up. Okay, no kids here, that's all right. Oh, yay, all right, thank you so much for being here. And I invite you, keep standing up if you could. Please keep standing up if you want. You're invited. It's all an invitation. You can stand up or raise your hand. Okay, next. If you are a parent, could you please stand up? And stay standing up, all right? If you are someone who works with kids or has worked with kids, please stand up. If you were a kid or still identify as a kid, please stand up. My wish and my dream for you is that you are loved, cared for, and that you know that you matter and you belong. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to take a moment to announce a new award that we're presenting in 2023. The Dr. Nina Roberts Social Justice Advocate Award was envisioned by our Social Justice Task Force. It will honor a person or an organization working within the social justice, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging fields, or somebody who's using that work to further their programs. It will be part of our annual awards from this conference forward. And I invite you, with all of our awards, to nominate people. These awards are for our community. We had a very amazing group of people work on the awards this year, our awards review committee. We went over all the qualifications. We looked at how equitable they were. We looked at how we could make them more accessible and more inclusive. We changed up the whole nomination form. Thank you to all of those that helped with that. And so we want to make them really a part of our community and make sure that this is something that you all want. So thank you all. And we're very excited to have this new award for next year. And then also with this, we had a great group of people come to me and ask about publishing a book. AE used to publish books. We haven't for quite a while. Publishing is a way different game now with ebooks and being able to self-publish. So we did the research, we looked at it. We had some amazing editors work on this project, and AE has a new book, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Field Guide, that is a guide to be used with your program, any program, your board, your classroom. We did have 100 of them here, the first edition, the first print, and they are sold out. So if you got one, awesome. Thank you so much. We will be working on having it as an ebook and available on all the platforms and having more printed. So thank you all for the work on that and for supporting Dr. Nina Roberts in her in carrying the torch forward. We have some cards too that you can pick up on the table at the way out to find out more. Oh, we're going to pass those out. So about that. Thank you all.
Have you ever had an experience where you were reading a novel and in between times when you were actually reading it, you were thinking about the characters in the book and you were wondering what they were doing? That's what happened to me when I was reading Even As We Breathe by Annette Saunooke Clapsaddle. Annette is our keynote speaker today, and she is a member of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee and holds degrees from Yale University and the College of William and Mary. I knew that was coming, Mo. I love it. Annette was a high school teacher in Swain County, North Carolina, which is a bit west of here, just until pretty recently, a few months ago, last year. She did that for over 12 years, and now she is a consultant and a writer. Even As We Breathe was named one of NPR's best books of 2020. And in 2021, it received the Thomas Wolfe Memorial Literary Award. Please give a warm AEE welcome to our keynote speaker, author, teacher, and mountain biker, Annette Saunooke Clapsaddle.
Okay, can we hear me all right? We good? Awesome. Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here. Sho Nagata, hello everyone. Thank you for having me here today. A huge congratulations on 50 years. That's incredible. This conference is just an amazing undertaking. And I say that because I was a teacher for over 12 years. and I know exactly how rowdy a group of educators can be. And since my novel is partially set at the Grove Park Inn, I was also privy to a story that the last time this conference was held at the Grove Park, y'all turned it inside out. Yeah, maybe scaled the large fireplaces or slept in a drained pool. When I heard that, I knew that you were my kind of people. In fact, it's a bit ironic that I'm standing before you today as you sit, and the expectation is that learning will occur. I don't think a person in this room truly believes that this is the best model. And yet, sometimes we are confined to this way, this space, and the logistics of it all. And we have to get pretty creative. Or, as I've come to believe, do a little magic. As a writer, my readers are physically stationary for the most part, and it is my task to somehow contort, weave, and concoct words in just the right order that makes them feel as though they are no longer confined by place or time. As educators, we have the same calling. We are experience enchanters. I've had the privilege of living and teaching in one of the most beautiful areas in the country, the ancestral home of the Cherokee. I come from a culture that is vastly misunderstood and misrepresented in all genres of popular culture. Heck, sometimes we even do it to ourselves. While at Swain County High School, a school with a substantial Native American population, I was teaching students who had never read a novel with a character that looked like them or was from a community like theirs. I was teaching students who had no reason to believe that their stories mattered and therefore that they mattered. This week, you are here to reimagine the future. For the reasons I just mentioned, this is important work. Honoring a past is critical, but it's far more constructive to imagine the future of a collective, diverse society. My novel, Even As We Breathe, is the first novel published by an enrolled citizen of the Eastern Band of Cherokee. I hope it won't be the only very long. Most of my characters are Cherokee. So when a former student, also a tribal citizen, picked up a copy and read it as a college freshman, his first response to his mother was, "Mama, I've never seen myself in a book before. People just don't write about people like us." And when the book was made available at the high school where I taught after I left, I had a mother of another young man reach out and say, "He's never really liked reading. He found his appreciation for books through you." I was able to leave more of myself than I had realized. I was able to leave a little of that magic for my students. When I had students tell me at the beginning of a semester that they, like this young man, didn't like or even hated reading, I had to call them on it. I had to ask if they felt emotion when they got a text from someone they were crushing on, or if a meme made them laugh. Because if that was true, they did in fact like reading, or at least they could. But I also couldn't blame students for feeling disconnected. In the case of Native literature, all narratives available still seem distant, removed, somehow exclusionary. It was rife with stereotypes, and those stereotypes became so embedded into our American mythos that they even influenced federal Indian policy. When it comes to the written word, Native Americans have had a long history of misunderstanding and thus mistreatment. As someone who loves literature and my culture, I strive to find ways to connect the two, especially in ways that positively affect the lives of young people. I can still remember the first time I was handed a novel written by a Native writer about an authentically portrayed Native community. It validated not only my experience, but my desire to be a writer. I spent years trying to figure out why that was. How did the author accomplish it? What was the magic spell? Whether it be writing or teaching literature, I came to embrace two key philosophical tenets. Literature creates empathy, and great literature is felt in the body. Because of this, for the past few years, I've been focused on finding ways in which physical interaction with literature can lead to a greater understanding and social justice. Take a moment to think about the last time words on a page or screen or even spoken caused you to tear up or giggle or made your heart beat faster. Have words made you sigh or roll your eyes? I mean, we just had election day this week, so I bet some of you saw some campaign material that elicited some sort of physical response from you. For me, it is the satisfaction of ripping certain flyers into tiny pieces before I even leave the post office. To understand that words, literally marks on a page, incite action, is nothing short of believing in magic. While my novel is most certainly written to give voice to Cherokee people, it's not exclusionary. The goal of a novelist is to create a path toward embodiment. I want all of my readers to reckon with the choices, the ideas, and the emotions of my characters, regardless of their backgrounds. I want their bodies, even though likely stationary, to feel in similar ways that my characters' bodies feel. But my only tools are words. I began on this journey about 6 years ago when I took up cycling. And this is the part when I need to enunciate the difference between riding and writing, so bear with me. While all cycling interests me, it really is mountain biking that changed the way that I write and connect with others. These pictures are from one of my first races, and I always like to say I do not condone riding on wet trails. It is not good for them. But I just happened to be caught in the middle of the woods in the middle of a thunderstorm and had to get out of there. But what is not important is who won that day. So we're not going to talk about that. I picked up this sport in my late 30s, and it's one that has cost me tons of body and bike repairs over the last few years. In the process, I lost over 60 pounds. I won races and gained strength, but more than anything, I met friends, life-changing friends, and I started seeing the world around me differently. I started seeing the divots in a path and the way the woods look and feel different every season, sometimes every day. I gained insight from the curves of a mountain and the rock patterns in a creek bed. And mind you, I ride the same trails over and over again. I am on a literal path, but the end is not the objective, and my personal ride time is not the purpose. I've become more human when caked in mud and laughing with friends as I slip my way down a path in a race to beat the lightning. I become more human when I meet a rider who has battled cancer and makes no excuses for climbing slow. I am more human when I race with my former student and cheer him on to victory while he cheers me on as well. When you go on group rides, it is always fun to follow a rider who is better than you. You literally follow their line as if on a tightrope, You are so close to their back tire that you can't necessarily see the trail before you the way they can. But you can see the line they take. You can see how they swerve to miss a loose rock or hit a fallen limb straight on without braking. You are propelled into their high lean on a berm, or you know when to lift from the seat for a descent. You are watching the rider more than the trail itself. Your body becomes an extension of theirs, and you learn from that. Your body adopts it. It is spellbinding. Perhaps you are even leading the group the next time. This is what literary characters can do for you. Take you on a group ride of sorts, show you their lines. This is the elasticity of empathy, the confluence of physical self and experience of others. I've had the privilege of teaching some of the most wonderful humans over the years. I emphasize humans because as a teacher, that is what I remember. That is what matters. And that is why all of you are here today. Despite what society tells us about the role of education, it is not to ensure you get a job or make money or even acquire technical skills, though all of those things are appreciated. Education at any level is a humanizer. Adults, parents, bosses, teachers are in complete upheaval coming out of the pandemic, and in all honesty, the years prior as well. We are tangled in our own safety net and are still asked to tightrope our way through. Given this, it may feel as though we can't afford the fall, the failure. How can we be asked to also provide experiences for our students that are engaging and foster cultural empathy? How are we supposed to be social justice leaders in a sometimes resistant climate and help students acquire the essential skills of literacy? If there's one nugget of advice I might so boldly share, it's this. There is no soft place for hard work. You may feel balance on this tightrope trajectory, but what of the rope itself? What of the air, never stagnant, that sways your gait? Is the sun in your eyes or at your back? I would argue that there is no point in walking the tightrope if your only goal is to cross to the other side. What makes a rider perhaps different from others is an obsession with observation to the point of distraction. There's a line in a Ginsberg poem that reads, "Notice what you notice." And because resilience is nothing more than elasticity, the ability to ebb and flow, I believe that observation, not necessarily just failure, is the training ground of resilience. And this is something we can teach our students to do. In my novel, the protagonist, a 19-year-old Cherokee young man named County, describes meeting his love interest, Essie, for the first time. Through reflection, he realizes his first impression was misguided. County says, maybe all those years ago, she wasn't scowling down at the river, but shielding the summer sun from her eyes so she could better locate fish. Walking into town alone, speaking to no one, was not chosen isolation. Maybe she was concentrating on the shopping list streaming through her head, or like me, she feared straying too far from explicit instructions, leading to an inevitable whipping, maybe even beating. Essie may be like many of you here today, or even your students. She knows what she wants, or at least she says she does. She has set a course that will allow her to successfully pursue her goals. But that in no way means she's understood, or that her course is easy. It's only when she sees beyond herself to the humanity of County, really to the humanity of herself, that she truly finds her way. And it is only when County does the same, finds the humanity in a beautiful, independent, intelligent woman, that he finds his way. That they truly observe the intricacies of each other. Even as we breathe is a love story, no doubt, but it is not the love story you might find on the pages of a Nicholas Sparks novel. If it was, I'd be mad rich right now. However, it is a human love story, full of ambiguity, mistakes, and a resolution that even I, as the author, cannot sum up for you in the remaining minutes I have. As the first Eastern Band Cherokee novelist ever published, I was determined to present a Cherokee character who was humanized on the pages. In doing so, I considered the very definition of humanity, my high school students. They are becoming, honing, practicing the human they believe is a crucial addition to the larger humanity. Notice I describe them with verbs, as action takers. As we also go about this, as we continue to exhibit unprecedented, aren't you sick of that word, resilience, I hope we remember that our humanity is not more valuable than those who are not sitting here. Our struggle is tethered to so many who build this web with us. None of us would ever consider intentionally failing just to gain some sort of earned resilience, but that does not mean resilience is off limits for us. We are, however, tasked with observing it in unlikely spaces. All of this seems overwhelming, daunting, even to learn that we carry the weight of others with us. And I am sure you thought I was here to give you an inspirational speech. Never fear, I am nothing if not an optimist. I was a public school teacher after all. There's no soft place for hard work because hard work is never comfortable. It wasn't comfortable before COVID, and it won't be comfortable after. Yet each time you take a step on that tightrope, you lay a line for the next person to follow, so they may save their hard work for an even greater task to come, so that they may continue to redefine humanity. Remember that connective web I mentioned earlier, a metaphor for how we're linked together? Well, that web is also elastic. Both growth and support must be in order to withstand the world's surprises, like a pandemic. This in no way means that you should forgo your values, your knowledge, your research to simply make others feel more comfortable. In fact, quite the opposite. Your flexibility is manifested by the observance of others' ideas so that you can affirm your own in a full awareness and thorough examination. Those who break under the pressure of others because they are too fearful to stand up against the current do so because they are inflexible. They cannot embrace ambiguity and dialogue and debate. They are afraid to not only look at others, but truly examine themselves as well. They believe that they must give way completely or drown. You know better. You, those who are seeking this education, are here because you know flexibility withstands pressure. You maneuver through the current, the tides, because you understand what they are truly made of, because you have observed them, because of how your own matter can navigate through them. We get the opportunity to witness humanity in its fullest without shying away from the unfamiliar. We get to flip challenges and obstacles on their heads and discover that when upside down, sometimes they're the very gift we've been searching for. There are countless cheesy cliches I could share with you on this topic. The obstacle is the way, knowledge is power, etc. Nothing I'm saying here today is authentically new advice. I am certain you already know these truths. What I'm asking you to do today is to actually live them. Come unbalanced for a bit. Look around, talk to someone new, and understand them as part of your humanity. Notice what you notice. I was once a high school basketball coach. Yes, I'm glad that is over. But it did afford me one really incredible experience. The volleyball coach and I used to take a group of about 20 young ladies to the beach for a leadership retreat. We had 3 rules. Each day, everyone would meet a new person, obviously not from our group, do something they had never done before, and try a new food. It was simple and uncomfortable, and quite possibly the most effective drill of sorts my team ever ran. In our collective vulnerability, we grew stronger. I still have former players who remember this experience and credit it with their growth more than anything else. Stretching to observe and empathize with others in the name of humanity may not always be comfortable, but it's always worth it. And a couple of days ago, I had a discussion with another tribal citizen about 2 rallying calls in Indian country. You may have seen the "We Are Still Here" rhetoric or heard it on various platforms. Enlightening. Thank you. It is a reminder of the resiliency of Indigenous people. However, a layer below that, and a motto of sorts for many Native contemporary communities, are 2 simple words: land back. My friend was talking about the differences in tone of these 2 statements, and in her opinion, how weak, almost apologetic, the first can be, and that she much preferred the land back alternative. I'd never really put much thought into it. But as I prepared to speak today, I came to think of the metaphorical land back, how we can reoccupy literary spaces that have historically already been ours. I found answers in an unlikely place. On Thursday, July the 28th, as a dim light cast a grayness over the town of Hindman, Kentucky, my roommate woke me up. We were attending the Appalachian Writers Workshop in Hindman, an annual gathering of writers from across Appalachia, and one of my favorite spaces on earth. Is anyone from Kentucky here? We'll talk later. I love Kentucky. I had turned off all of my phone notifications. I sleep with noise-canceling earbuds and an eye mask. Not to mention, I was exhausted from a late night. As daylight broke, my roommate gently shook my shoulder. When I finally sat up and removed my earbuds and mask, she said to me, "There is an emergency." Many of you may have seen the pictures or experienced the devastation of that night's flash flood in eastern Kentucky. However, this was the first time in my life that I had witnessed such. Flooding at home has sometimes breached bridges and flooded floors of downtown businesses. It's caused slides and temporarily rerouted roads. Still, I had never seen such immediate and total loss of land, property, and life. I instantly realized that any judgment calls I made on whether to leave or stay, drive or walk that morning would be uninformed. I was not of this place. I did not know how these mountains would respond or when the creeks would recede. The smell of gas filled the air and rain continued to steadily fall. Sirens rang everywhere. I wanted to leave and find the familiar. If I were home, I'd at least know which turns to take, which roads might be passable, how much strain a riverbank could take. And in the following moments, I realized the locals knew the way. They knew the patience and the urgency of each decision. They knew acceptance and resistance. They knew what was truly important beyond lives to save. I could take pictures and post them to show the extent of devastation, but that felt wrong, voyeuristic. I could look at my Eastern Kentucky friends and invite them to share their story in the high ground of North Carolina, pimp this new pain. But they were already doing the work they needed to do. If I wanted to help, I would listen to their advice, return to my own community, carrying their story, and be poised to move in the directions they chose, they need in the coming days, weeks, and likely months. As a writer who just witnessed a natural disaster with a whole community of writers, I am sure I will want to put ink to paper to describe what I saw and felt and wondered. I think that's natural. And I will take lessons from that day with me from this place and these people. But the flooding of Eastern Kentucky is not my story to tell. I won't need to ask the citizens of this region to provide a picture book for the rest of the world. Only they know the path toward land back. As educators, we can't simply tell students what they need to know about the world around them. We need to take them into that world so it can teach, so they can learn from themselves, they can learn for themselves from those people of that place. And when limitations of time and space occur, we must provide a microphone for those voices to tell their own stories. I returned to Eastern Kentucky many times since the flood. In fact, I'll be back there next week. And I can promise you how I felt in those scenes of devastation while standing amidst debris and altered landscape is not the same way my dear friend who lives there and stood beside me experienced it. I want you to hear her story, not mine. I want you to feel in your bones what she feels in hers, because only then will you know the urgency of change that needs to occur for that community that has been nearly erased by the coal mining industry. Even more important, I want her to tell you the stories she wants to tell you. And though this is a story of Eastern Kentucky, it's not unlike other cultures, not our own. Craig Womack, a native literary scholar and writer, warns us that if we do not tell our own stories of our own experiences, we give away all our power to a group of outsiders who determine our aesthetics for us. And this happens without even a fight. A couple of days ago, a friend and fellow Cherokee artist posted on Facebook that tourists coming into the bookstore where she works most often ask for books on the Trail of Tears with, I was going to say wait for it, so that was a good timing. So tourists ask for books on the Trail of Tears with photographs. But they just don't ask for them. When she tells them they do not exist, tourists quite often suggest that someone should write one. One must assume write one for them. I cannot count how many times I've been told by non-native people that I should write about the Trail of Tears. And I must admit it's quite tempting to give an assumed audience what they want, what we know will sell copies, what narratives will perform like the roadside chiefs of 1950s downtown Cherokee, waving to cars from the entrance of faux plain-style teepees next to signs offering pictures for tips. These displays of diversity do nothing to move us past still photographs freezing us in time. And these requests do no more than pimp the pain. Opportunities such as this today, or publishing houses seeking talent beyond big city MFA programs, encourage the thaw of frozen historical trauma narratives. When I consider the immense literary talent and tradition of our region and the spaces that are opening up for writers like myself, I feel confident in saying that none of us want to be some hidden fun fact about our community. We don't want to be the token that's called upon only during whatever Heritage or Acknowledgement Month is designated for one aspect of our identity. We don't want to show up or our art show up in your schools only during the month of November. Literature is inherently political. All law is literature, crafted, revised, shared, and read. That's why I believe wholeheartedly that imagery created by literature is sacred and should be treated as such. We are forming a collective memory in the process. This noticing, this observing, this yielding to the stories of place, not about a place, is an act of political justice. It brings the humanity, the actual physicality of laws and policy to the forefront. But all of this has been hypothetical so far, right? You're teachers, you need the goods to take back with you. How do you do this? How do you empower student voices to tell their own stories and also feel others' stories in the body? The following are just a few ideas. One of the simplest things I ever did that I found the most effective was to schedule nature walks before any big test. My AP Lit seniors had to write in-class timed essays about once a week in preparation for the AP exam. You can imagine they loved that. Before each one, we walked around the school and simply talked as humans. I quickly noticed that they were far more likely to ask questions and share what was going on in their lives when we got outside. If you're here at this conference, you already expected that. One day, I shook it up a bit. I told them that we were going on our nature walk, but I wanted them to experience it as if they were 5-year-olds in a kindergarten class. It wasn't much of a stretch. In particular, I asked them to notice what they noticed when we returned to the classroom. This was an invaluable lesson in perspective shifting for them. They felt free and curious. They noticed far more than they ever had. This is a little interactive here, okay? Poet Nicole Brown once said in a workshop, "Once you think you know something, you forget it." Experiential learning is all about unlearning. I challenge students, adults and teens, to forget all the signifier language we have for the world around us, all the labels and categories, and look at the essence of what is in front of us. Signifiers strip away physicality, energy, they mute it. Here's how this works. Take a look at the image on the screen. Now, collectively, shout out what it is. All right, thank you. But they're kind of rotten. So. What are these? They look nothing alike. Why would you likely say that that is an apple and these are apples? Did you know that do you know where apples were first cultivated? I can't even hear what you're whispering. Then it's like, yeah. Kazakhstan. Did anybody get it? You can have my rotten apples as a prize. Did you know that they are members of the rose family? No, right? If you did know, just pretend you didn't know. It makes me feel better. So you should actually eat from what we call the bottom, because that's where they're the sweetest. That's where the flower was, right? It freaks people out if you do that. And notice how we sit an apple on a table, right? Well, that makes no sense at all, because that's top heavy, right? We don't do that with water bottles. Sometimes I show that, but then I didn't want to mess. You know, we might have caused problems earlier anyway, so I didn't want to push it. So we thought we knew something with the signifier language, right? We thought we knew what an apple was. So we forgot to think about it every time we touched one or ate one or smelled one or set it on a table. We stopped noticing. Now, if I gave each one of you one of these and told you that you could not use signifier language but had to write about it, imagine how difficult but yet how rewarding it could be. In fact, that's how this novel started. I gave myself the writing prompt to write as long as I possibly could on the simplest object I could think of. For me, that was a clean bone. So I went to the Jackson County Library and sat in the ugliest room they have. There's all white, it's very small. There's one desk and a chair. But the Jackson County Library in North Carolina is beautiful otherwise. So I'm just going to read a little piece because I know I want to be mindful of time. But so you see how this works. So I'm writing just about a clean bone as long as I can. And it ended up turning really into the whole novel, but a large part of it is in the prologue. So here's a small clip. It was smooth and porous, its slight sea curved, angled in motion, calling to be grasped, used, a weapon, at least in some primitive function of strength, like a subhuman scythe, though innately human, maybe even the very core of humanity. And now, as I recall the moment out loud, it was an embarrassing indulgence of make-believe for my 19-year-old self. It's all right to laugh, I don't blame you. Such an extraordinary object to be inside flesh. It was wholly earthen, not sterile or cellular. It was natural in a way we pray our body is not, momentary, seasonal, destined for expiration. The bone had lost its story, petrified into a mere alkaline deposit, transient and nameless. For those literature and creative writing teachers out there, or storytellers, here's how movement made magic for me on the page. A few years ago, I had a near complete manuscript for my novel, but the first part was missing two essential features. I needed another chapter. I needed my protagonist to have more motivation for his later decisions, and that in turn would compel the reader. And I needed to move the plot forward, to provide some tension. I went to a writing retreat, the Hambidge Center, if you're familiar with it, and sequestered myself in a studio with no internet or cell service. I promise it wasn't here, but I was completely stuck. So I did what all great writers do. I procrastinated. Except instead of taking a nap, I called up a friend and went for a mountain biking ride. This was a ride that we had done before, one of those that takes us to a major river where we swim and rest mid-ride. When we reached the river, we waded to a rock outcropping further into the river and sat in the summer sun. My friend said to me, "You know, they used to float logs down this river." In that moment, I knew my chapter was written. So real quickly, this is how this happened. So this is an excerpt from the chapter I wrote after that bike ride. I've got these bullet points up there, and I think you all can read, so I'm not going to read through them. But for me, it was all about creating motion with vocabulary, with establishing an immediate sensory connection to the body that the reader could identify with. And that also created some foreshadowing with the slipperiness of the log. I have never been trapped in a log pool. I believe in good research for a novel, but I'm not going to jump into the log pool. And I was pretty sure most of my readers hadn't been trapped in a log pool. So I had to find experiences that we could connect to, right? And many of us have driven under an overpass in a rainstorm and felt that silence, right? And so that was something that I could take out of context of the scene and provide an experience for the reader. And finally, teach your students that sometimes you have to be still. This is my favorite. All right. I had to be still, locked from distractions to truly discover the bone story. So I was fortunate enough to capture this video because I challenged myself to sit on a hill and watch a single rabbit near the pasture line until I outlasted him, until he left first. How do I get this to play? Did it play? Okay. He's got it. Okay. So obviously, he or she had other plans, and soon invited a friend. Disclaimer: I did also learn that when you are too still, when you shut out all the sound and light, you may find yourself in the middle of a natural disaster. So do that with warning. Our students, heck, all humans are verbs more than nouns, or at least we should be. We aren't stagnated. And I'm going to go through this quick because I'm running out of time, but Shirley Jackson is a master of this, so if you are a literature teacher, you might pull from this. Notice in these lines, she's describing a house, but it's all personification. How does she do that? How does she bring it alive? She uses verbs, adverbs, not nouns, not things, right? And I'm going to skip that. But for literature to move, to feel it in the reader's body, we have to start noticing what we notice and push ourselves to see more. When we do this, when we enable our students to do this, we see each other more wholly. We see ourselves more completely. We no longer relegate certain cultures to past tense. We move together as a collective humanity toward a greater future. We not only reimagine, we realize. We scale fireplaces of bougie historical properties because we don't need soft places for hard work. Thank you so much for your time and attention and stillness today. I look forward to answering any questions you have or may have and chatting later if we get the opportunity. Shki.
Thank you, Annette. I'm going to be thinking about signifier language today and all the words what we call things. Love that. All right, we're going to play a little game of Have You Ever theater style. So here's how this works. Not yet, but in a moment. I'm going to invite you to stand up, and then I'm going to read some statements out, and when I do, if they don't apply to you, you're going to sit down. All right, go ahead and stand up. All right, maybe I'll be more clear. So here's how this works. Stay standing. Have you ever been to 10 or more international or regional AEE conferences? Okay. Stay standing if you've been to 10 or more international or regional AEE conferences. Okay. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Stay standing if more than 10 or more regional AEE. Okay. Stay standing if you've been to 20 or more AEE regional conferences. Okay, getting smaller. Stay standing if you've been to 30 or more AE international or regional conferences. Either one, any AE conference. Sorry. Okay, so we've got a handful still standing. All right, we're gonna do another round. Everyone sit down again. Or everyone stand up again, sorry. You know, I'm just trying to give you a little movement here. Stay standing if you've ever written a paper, article, or book more than 20 pages long. Ooh, okay, there's a lot of people still standing here. I'm impressed. Stay standing if you've written a book in the experiential education field. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, shout out to you all. Stay standing if you have written 7 books in the experiential field and a novel about a group of women fly fishers called the Real Sisters. Michelle Cummings has attended 27 international AE conferences and countless regional conferences. She started her company Training Wheels at the age of 27. And since then has made it her life's work to train, influence, and educate experiential educators. Her email newsletter, The Spokesperson, goes out to 24,000 people in 100 different countries around the world. She has authored 7 best-selling books in our field and has co-founded a leadership development course called Personify Leadership, which has had tens of thousands of leaders go through this, and they have certified hundreds of facilitators in 23 countries around the world. Now, despite all of this, in 2017, Michelle was getting a little bored, and she decided to write a novel. It was recently picked up by a screenplay writer with the intent of turning it into a feature film. Yeah, you can just say, hey, we knew her when. Yeah, ask her later where it's going. It's really exciting. Although her mortgage is in Colorado, she considers Norton, Kansas her home, and her husband and 2 boys love going there to play in the dirt. Please give a warm AEE welcome to the amazing Michelle Cummings.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm so excited for this event because what I love about the structure of our 50th, coming back after being virtual for a few years, is that day one of the conference very intentionally was about the present, right? It was about like what was happening right here in the right now. Yesterday was about our past, right? Celebrating where we've been, things that, like people that we honor, that we remember, and all of that. And today is about the future, right? So we're going to take a few minutes and really focus on what is the AEE that we want to continue into the future. So, but before that, we've been sitting for a little bit, right? Now for me, I know that in the trainings that I do, that the longer people sit, their brains tend to start moving south, right? And so we start to lose a little bit of focus. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna actually do a little bit of a connection activity, because I want us to not only, actually over the course of the last 3 days, we've had a lot of opportunity to connect with content as well as one another. But one of the quotes that I have always started out a lot of my workshops with is by Peter Block. My husband had an opportunity to attend a 3-day workshop with Peter Block one time. I was so jealous I didn't get to go to that one. But the quote that he came home saying, he's like, oh, I got a quote for you out of the work that I just went to. He was like, from Peter Block, it was, we must establish a personal connection with each other. Connection before content. Amy even started out on Thursday with this same quote. Without relatedness, no work can occur. So we've got to figure out the ways we're connected so that we can do the work, right? So we've had 50 years of work behind us, and now we've got another 50 and more in front of us. So to do that, we're going to do an exercise. So I think, are all the cards out there? Everyone's got cards? Okay, so those little card decks that were just given to you, they're inside there. You're gonna find something, a deck of cards I created called the Comfort Zone Wheelies. Okay, now you're gonna learn, I love a good metaphor, right? We're gonna talk a lot about metaphor here in a second. And so this is the deck of cards I created called the Your Turn at the Wheel cards, right? So if you think about it, when you're driving a car, it's your turn at the wheel, right? And sometimes you're driving, sometimes you're the passenger, and it's the same in conversation. Sometimes we are driving that conversation, and sometimes we are the passenger or the listener. So this particular deck of cards, you're gonna find 3 colored cards, one that is green, one that is yellow, and one that is red. So this particular deck of cards are get to know you questions based on level of risk. So that green level, so if you think about it, the stoplight, right? The stoplight, green means go. Yellow, contrary to popular belief, it means caution. It doesn't mean speed up, right? I know, contrary to popular belief. And then red usually means stop. So, but that metaphor of red, yellow, and green, we're gonna kind of tweak it and change it a little bit throughout our time together this afternoon. So green is very surface level kind of questions. They're very low risk. The next level there, so this one here, name your ideal car. So for those of you watching online, feel free to stay connected in the online format. Start populating the chat box to some of these questions as well. So with green here, name your ideal car. That's kind of surface level, right? Like if you could have any car you wanted to, what would it be? Okay. The next level, yellow, that's a little bit, they're a bit more medium risk questions. So example of this one, what's the biggest adrenaline rush you've ever had? So that's got a little bit more story behind it, and it, you know, there's some more emotion there, right? And then with the red ones, now these are higher risk questions that definitely go below the surface. Okay, so this one here, what's your philosophy in life? A little bit of a deep question. Might actually take you a little while to think about that one, right? So what we're going to do here in a minute, but not yet, is I'm going to ask everyone to stand up. You're going to find a partner. And first, once you find the partner, oh, by the way, I said this earlier in my workshop, but the universal sign for I need a partner just looks like this. You totally just throw your hand right up in the air like that. And I call it lost and found. This means I am lost, I need a partner. And this means I am found. You can elbow bump too. If like the handshake got weird, right? Like after COVID, the handshake got weird. Now it's like, I don't know, like whatever. So, but what you're gonna do is you're going to then find a partner, ask them what color of question they would like to answer. So you have choice in the level of risk or the level of depth that you would like to answer with a stranger. Right? So because red is pretty deep, we just met these people. Maybe you partner with someone you know really well, maybe you feel comfortable with going with red, or maybe you don't want to go there. It's totally okay. It is your choice. So after you ask and answer questions, you can trade cards then and go find a new partner if you'd like. So that way you're always asking and answering new questions and meeting new people. We're gonna try to get through 3 or 4 different partner exchanges so that we get re-energized a little bit, get our blood kind of flowing back through. And then when we come back, we'll get started again, okay? So go ahead, stand up, find a partner. All right. Did you still meet some new people? And are you still learning new things about them as well as yourself? So I'm curious, raise your hand if you answered a green question. Raise your hand if you answered a yellow question. Ooh, look at that. Raise your hand if you went red and you answered a red question as well. All right. Congratulations for stepping outside your comfort zone, and also congratulations for staying in your comfort zone as well, if that's where you chose to stay. So this particular card deck, I created it several years ago. I have 2 boys, they're now 18 and 20, but I created these when they were just coming out of middle school, right? And so my family, my kids and my husband and I, we would sit down on Sunday nights and we would have what we called family scrum meetings. And we borrowed that term from rugby, okay? And so, and rugby, the term scrum meeting is when they all put their heads down together and then they all kind of do that thing and they're all kind of talking about the game plan, right? Well, our boys, they have 2 traveling parents. This year, I'm gonna actually hit 200,000 miles on an airplane this year, which is a lot, right? So it's one of those that, you know, on Sunday evenings, it was family night. We would sometimes play games, but it was our check-in. It was our game plan for the week. Who has assignments due? Do you have parents in town? Who needs a ride on what day and where? What is happening at swim, at swim meeting? Do you have swim meets this week? Are we up for snacks? Oh my God, I had no idea how stressful it was. When all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're up for snacks. I'm like, oh, that's 24 high school boys. That's a Costco run right there is what that is, right? So, and you can't, you got to plan that stuff, right? So on Sunday evenings, we decided that's going to be the night where we heads down, focus on us, right? We focus on our family, focus on things. Well, there was one particular semester where grades were not where they could have been, right? And we've always told our kids, you've got to work hard for the things that you want. And so we set goals at the beginning of the year. What's your intention? What's your goals for this semester in this class? And what do you want to do? And so when they were kind of falling short of a few of the goals that they had set for themselves, then you could tell that they were starting to kind of drag their feet a little bit, come into family scrum meeting. Well, that's the last thing we wanted. So I thought, all right, you teach this stuff. Let's actually do an icebreaker before we actually go into family scrum night. So I decided I'm going to test these questions out with my kids and my husband, right? So I put these 3 piles of cards on the table, and I'm like, all right, we're going to each of us will grab 1 from the green, 1 from the yellow, and 1 from the red. And so then we're going to go around and we're not going to answer the same question. You get to answer that question, and everybody else just gets to listen. And maybe we'll ask some questions and things like that, but then you just get to provide us an answer, and the next person will have a new question. So we did our first round of green. Those were super fun. And then all of a sudden we get to the yellow, Yellow starts to get a little bit deeper. And then all of a sudden we got to the red and it went around and there were some really deep questions. Now, I have always been a really involved parent in my kids. Even though I'm a traveling mom, I always, like with the advances in technology, I could still do readings at night with the kids and all those things. I still stay really involved with them. And what was amazing to me, what happened is that in that moment, when we went from surface level conversations, hey, how was school today? Good. You've all gotten that question, right? I stopped asking that question of my kids. How was school today? Good. Because I was so tired of that answer. And I'm like, if you're tired of that answer, stop asking the question. Right? And so finally then I started asking questions like, what could you teach me about what you learned today? Right? Kind of flipping it back. Now they're teaching me something. But when we started to get to the red questions, it all of a sudden shifted. Is that, because the questions there, one of them is, what was the worst phase of your life? That's kind of a deep question, right? And it's not really a question that comes up normal in conversations. I'm like, hey, Dawson, you want to hear about the worst time of my life? He's like, no, Mom, that's weird, right? So like, that's not like a normal question that comes up, right? But now all of a sudden, when I drew that card and I'm like, whew, here I am. I'm going to get real vulnerable in front of my own kids, right? And what I loved about it is that not only was I learning about them, I had no idea middle school was as hard as it was for them. The opposite was then true as well. They also are learning things about me that they might not have ever learned before. So there's power in asking the deep and hard questions. There's also power in answering those deep and hard questions. So when we think about 50 years of AEE, there's some things that we have done really, really well. There are also some things that we could and should do differently. And that's what moving into the future is. We get to create the AEE that we want to be and want to have, right? So, right? So as we look at this moving forward, reimagining the future, we get to be a part of that, right? Now, so I'm curious, raise your hand. How many of you actually used training wheels when learning how to ride a bike? Let's see those hands, all right? Okay, cool. How many of you didn't? How many of you got like the push and crash and burn method, or you just figured it out on your own? Okay, because there's value in both, right? Now, being a girl that has a company called Training Wheels, right? I chose the name Training Wheels for my company because I love the metaphor of the training wheel, right? For those of you that used it, how long did you use those training wheels? Did you use it very long? Some of us, really long time. Others of us are like, no, but you used it just enough, long enough, until you gained your own courage up to take that training wheel off, and then you owned it. And the first time you did it, it was so super scary. You're like, oh my God, I'm like, right? Some of us had someone holding onto the back of us. Some of us didn't. Some of us just figured it out. And for me, when I was thinking of a metaphor, like the name of my company, I was like, I want a metaphor that or a name that really encapsulates the metaphor of what I do. I'm only with a group for a really short period of time. And then it's up to them to take what they learn and own it. Right? And that's what learning to ride without your training wheels on is, right? So my grandfather passed away in 2019, right before the pandemic hit. So after he passed away, I started going through all of my grandfather loved to take photographs. If there was ever a new camera that came out, he had it. And so he was always the guy taking photos. Well, so as we started going through his belongings and things like that, we actually found some really fantastic footage of me. So I know that's really terrible because this is footage. This is actually a screen grab from 8mm video. Okay, so let's walk through this photo real quick. So this is me. So number one, I am wearing white bell bottoms. Okay, so for those of you that have ever learned how to ride a bike, are bell bottoms the best pants of choice to use when riding bike? Probably not, but you know what? I'm 8, so we're gonna let that one slide. Okay, so I have the infamous Dorothy Hamill haircut because my mom loved Dorothy Hamill. I loved Dorothy Hamill. I did not love her haircut. Let's just say that. I'm gonna notice here that I have the wrong tools for the job, or the bicycle itself. Can we talk about this banana seat? Can we also talk about the angle of this banana seat, right? and the handlebars that are like, I'm totally like on an old Harley, like way up here, right? So I don't know if I was necessarily set up for success, but at the same time, there are no training wheels. There is not a bike chain, like the bike chain guard, like none of that is there. I'm just pointing this out because I actually do have the actual footage of me learning how to ride a bike. Now, I will also first, I also want to acknowledge, I'm a 6th generation farmer now of our land in Norton, Kansas, but it's the ancestral land of the Ka, the Osage, and the Pawnee. And I always want to acknowledge that even though it's my now family farm, it once belonged to somebody else. And I don't know what that looked like back in the late 1800s, whatnot, but I am deeply honored to now be the steward of this land. So I'm gonna set the stage for you here. This is the quote unquote backyard of our family farm. So there are barns where our cows are. This is an old 1800 drive-through granary. That's how they used to store grain in the late 1800s. There are very sharp metal implements that are just, they're surrounding the backyard. I'm just gonna point that out. I have 2 brothers that are 2 older brothers and a younger sister at this point. There are 2 more that follow later, but they're not born yet in this one. So you're gonna see a little bit of a chaotic environment happening here. So, but what you're also gonna see is, I want you to notice what happens at the very beginning of me learning how to ride a bike, okay? All right, so here we go. So there's some distractions. So there I am. Oh, there's a good fall. There's a good fall. Right now I'm just over here walking. Oh, okay, I'm gonna attempt to get on, okay? Excellent. There's still lots of football. And my sister just runs everywhere. She is not a runner now, by the way. But now I'm still just, I don't know, hanging out with the bike. I don't know if I'm really learning how to ride the bike, but you know, now I'm walking it. I'm still, you know, I don't know. Okay. Woo. Okay, now I'm crashing. I'm crashing a lot. Now I'm so frustrated, right? Okay. Do you notice? I start falling better. Right? Okay, and what you can't tell is there's a teeny tiny little incline here. So I'm trying to use the earth as like a ramp. Here we go. Okay, like the Fred Flintstone method. Okay, that was a bad fall. Okay, but guess what? You know what? When you fall down, you just gotta brush off the white bell bottoms. And check out for injury. Okay, yep, okay, big bike, okay. We're gonna try some more still football going on. Okay, all right, where'd I go? Okay, over to the side, okay, here we go. Is this the moment? Oh my God, here we go. Okay, really close to the big sharp. I think in that moment, okay. I think it was that moment where I was like, oh my God, there's the really sharp metal things. Oh my God, and then I turn, and then that's what caused the final fall there. But, right? Did any of that feel familiar, right? So what I love about this find, right, is for a girl that owns a company called Training Wheels, this was a fantastic find, right? So I did some internal cartwheels when I found this, right? Actually, probably some external ones as well. But what I love about it is if I look back at this is my 27th AEE, right? So if I look back, for me, this is where my learning took place. My parents bought this house when they were pregnant with me. And so, my mom still lives in, that's not the house, by the way. That is not the house, but the house is right in front. But my mom is still alive and my mom still lives there, right? So this is the farm that changed me, the farm that built me. Now, when I think about AEE, I think about this is the professional association that built me, that changed me. Now, over those 24 years, have I done everything right? And have I said all the right things? Have I been as involved as I could have been? Absolutely not. But guess what? What I love about finding this video is at first, I was totally the one that was just like, okay, this is a really cool, these people are really fun. I'm just gonna walk my bike and I'm just gonna walk around. I'm like, oh, you look really fun. Maybe I'll go talk to you for a little bit. But then I actually would submit for workshops and I would start doing things. And then and I probably made a couple mistakes, but I started falling better. And then I had a couple of really good attempts and a couple of short little rides, maybe a little big crash and burn, check the injury. Oh, I was really glad that didn't go all the way off stage. Check the injuries, wipe my, brush yourself off and keep going. But you know what my favorite part of this whole video is, oh, we don't need to see it again, is that one right there. Frustration is part of the process. Right? We don't pick up a new skill and go to expert right away. Neither does this association or any association, right? Frustration is part of the process. And guess what? That's what makes us grow. So I love that I found this, but I also love that it is exactly the metaphor that we need as this association. We had training wheels at the very beginning. And then once we took those off, we started learning more things. We made some mistakes. We need to change it. When I was sitting in the 50 years of AEE, of the Women of AEE workshop and assisting with that, there were a lot of things that, the first women's professional group meeting was in 1985. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, right? Probably because I was actually in high school during that time. So I don't feel like I'm that old. But what I like about that is that, and then even then when we finally made some realizations that we needed to make some changes, there was probably a lot of frustration of that process of what we didn't like, and we were frustrated. So therefore we started making changes to make it better. And so through this whole process, now I also say that when I was a kid growing up, so this is totally a lot of me photos when I was a kid growing up, 4-H was a youth program that literally changed me as well, because I tell you, I do probably 20 to 30 keynote speeches a year now. And my first public speech I ever gave, I was 8 years old in the second grade at my 4-H club. So it gave me experience at a really young age that still benefit me today. But what I love about 4-H, this organization, it is run by volunteers. And I had the benefit of amazing volunteers, volunteering their time, their talents. They were investing in me as a new learner and as a kid who they, and it wasn't just for me, but it was for all the kids in the program, right? We had opportunities. So this woman here, Beverly Kindler, so she was new in her career or as a volunteer when I was a kid. So here she is presenting me with the Home Economics Judging Award. It makes me laugh so hard. I was the top home economics judger in the entire state of Kansas, right? So so funny. And that is a terrible sweater. And I'm telling you, that hair, whoo, wow. But here's the thing about Beverly is 4-H in Norton County, Kansas needed people like Beverly. So I did a keynote speech for the Norton Chamber of Commerce in February of 2020. So this was right before the pandemic, right? And I tell you what, Beverly showed up, right? And Beverly, at the age of 90 years old, was still volunteering at 4-H, right? Absolutely. And so organizations that are volunteer-based need people like Beverly, and they need people like you. Who are Beverlys that are out there, or whatever name you want to be called, right? Who are those people for our organization, right? So when we look at reimagining the future of the Association for Experiential Education, what does that look like? So I've got a quick video I want to share with you about vision, okay? So this is a cup exercise, okay? So there's now I explain it in the audio here, but in case it doesn't work, I'm gonna explain it here real quick. There is a blue ball that is underneath the center cup. You need to keep your eye on the ball, people, okay? And then I'm gonna move these cups around, and then you, at the end, I'm gonna say, okay, who thinks it's this one? Who thinks it's the middle one? Who thinks it's the one over there? And you're gonna raise your hand and whatnot, okay? All right, so here we go.
Locate the ball and focus on the cup that has the ball underneath it. So we're just going to move the cups around and try to keep focused on the cup that has the ball underneath it. Okay, here we go.
All right, who thinks it's this one?
Okay,
Who thinks it's this one?
do you think it is
Who thinks it's this one?
this cup over here?
Okay.
Do you think it is this cup
Hey!
back in the center? Or did you think it was,
Okay, nicely done, but that was way too
you
easy.
guessed the middle cup? You were correct. So again,
Okay.
under the white
A
cups,
little bit bigger
this one has
challenge,
the
okay?
ball. So keep track of the white cup that has the ball underneath.
And my son Dylan is gonna
So
assist.
this time,
Okay.
we'll have 3 different colors, but keep track of this cup here. Ready? Go. Start putting them back.
Does that feel like life right now? Okay, who thinks it's this cup over here? Who thinks it's the cup in the middle? And who thinks it's the cup over here? Oh, there are definitely a lot. Oh! Hey! Okay, but did you notice anything weird in that video?
So
Okay,
keep track
a couple of you
the
did.
white
Okay,
cup that has
okay.
the ball underneath.
All right, let's see
So
here.
this
So
time,
we're just gonna
we'll have
we're gonna play
3
that through
different
again,
colors,
see if
but
you
keep
missed
track of this cup here.
anything
Ready?
that might be going on.
Go.
Okay. All right, so there is a new cup. There's now 4 blue cups. It's actually a different color blue. There's a rabbit. There's a Lego. And I'm wearing googly eyes on my hand. I know it's really hard to tell, but. Okay. Okay, so now, I'm curious. Those were the only surprises. Raise your hand if you saw the other things. Okay. All right, so now, or some of them, which is fine. Now, for those of you that just raised your hand, did you, because you got distracted by the shiny objects in the video, how many of you, of those of you that just raised your hand, I saw those things, how many of you were incorrect? You lost track of the ball. Yeah, okay. All right, now, how many of you, see if there's anybody, how many of you did you see the objects and you still got it right? That's some impressive. How many of you are like, there were other items? Okay, all right, okay, all right, all right. So we have, you are all in really good company. There are, that was honestly about 33, and 33%. Okay, so if you missed those things, what does that say about vision and goal setting and things like that? What does that say? If you completely missed them, what does that say? Collaboration, or if we get so tunnel visioned on one thing, we miss a lot of other things that are happening around us, right? But the opposite can be true. The opposite can also be true, right? So if we see, some of you saw the things, but you still kept your eye on the ball. So maybe you're like, oh, that was weird. Oh, where'd it go? Okay, I'm still, oh, that was weird. Okay, right? But you still was able to stay, you got a little bit of distraction, but then you're like, but then some of us were like, what was that? I want to go do that. Oh wait, oh no, there's still lots of white cups out there. And we just completely lose our focus, right? So if you think about that around focus and setting goals and what do we want this association to look like, sometimes it feels like the chaos of all those different cups. There's lots of moving pieces and parts. We're supposed to be doing this one thing, but oh, that looks like fun. I want to go play, oh, but I'm supposed to be over here and things like that. So So it's one of those, I bring this up to then talk about, no matter which experience you just had, whether you got distracted and lost sight of your goals, whether you got distracted but remained on your goals, or whether you like, I didn't see the other things whatsoever. Pay attention to that as we move into this next part, where we're gonna now start focusing on what do we want to do, right? So if you think about that stoplight metaphor, I brought it up earlier, is that clearly the red light on the stoplight is meant to say, to stop what you're doing, right? And then we have the yellow one again, which is caution, right? But then we also have the green one that says go, right? It is your turn to go. Now, when we think about goal setting and things like that, we also have to, not only do we need to set good goals and have a good vision for what it looks like, but we also have to communicate our intent, right? Because if you think about that, when we actually communicate, when you're driving a car and you need to turn left up ahead, we turn our turn signals on, right? To turn left up ahead. We're signaling change. Because what happens if we don't do that? Right? Then all of a sudden I start to slow down. Well, the guy behind me had no idea. He's like, you're an idiot. Or like, oh my God, you can't drive. Like all of these things because I did not communicate my intent, right? And here's the crazy thing about intent is that we judge ourselves based on our intent because we know we are about to turn left up ahead. But I need to let others know that I'm about to turn left up ahead because if I don't do that, I judge myself based on my intent, but I will judge others based on the impact it has on me, right? So if you think about that, now all of a sudden, so we think about 50 years of AEE, there might have been something that happened maybe 5, 10, 20 years ago that had an impact on you, right? And maybe it was something that was super positive. Maybe it was something that didn't feel very good, right? And then maybe we either blame a person or the entire association or something like that because of the impact it had on you. Maybe we didn't investigate the intent. Maybe what happened is like, oh my gosh, that's so not what I intended. I did not mean for that to happen. I'm so sorry that that landed the way that it did. But if we don't take the time to investigate that and ask the other side, then we're always going to just then judge someone based on the impact it had on me. So as we think about that going into the future, into the next 50 plus years, it's important for us to think about, so pull out the next card in there. You're gonna have a card that looks like this one, moving forward. That green light, what is something that AEE is doing really well that we want to continue doing? These cards we are going to collect them at the end of this session. So write legibly so that we can actually read it later. We are soliciting feedback from you. We want to know what is one thing that we are doing really well. Does anyone need a pen? If you need a pen and someone near you sees them raising their hand right now, can somebody please go, oh, I have an extra pen? Or if someone's sitting near you, maybe you can trade pens back and forth and things like that. If you could help each other out, that would be awesome. Anybody else have an extra pen? Somebody still needs a pen back here. Anybody else? Allie's looking for pens. There's a few people looking for pens to help spread the pens around, okay? All right, so here's what we're gonna do. One thing that AEE is doing really well. What is one thing that our community should be careful of, that caution? What is something that we should be careful of? Something that maybe if it doesn't feel quite right, we're maybe judging by the impact rather than the intent. So what is it that we should be careful about? And then of course that last one, is there anything that we should just stop doing altogether? Maybe you feel it, maybe you've voiced it to somebody else, but maybe you haven't necessarily voiced it to the right people. Or maybe you have, and maybe it just was bad timing. They didn't hear it. It wasn't delivered in a way in which they could receive it, something like that. So take a few minutes in self-reflection and think about that. If you would like to print your name here, you can give it anonymously, but if you do that, make sure that it's still constructive, because that's what we're looking for, constructive feedback that will help us be better. That's the AEE that we all want to be. We want to be the best that we can be so that other people can experience the goodness that this organization can be with your assistance, right? Or the type of community that we want to create. For those of you online, if you are viewing online, populate this in the chat box, and then we'll collect those, and your voice can also be heard, and we can share this out we'll download the chat box, and we'll be able to get your feedback as well. Just make sure you preface it with green first. So green, here's the thing we could do well, yellow, and then red, so we make sure that we can distinguish which was the things that we're doing really well and the things that we should stop doing. Okay, I always know when people are about done because you can start getting fidgety. Do you hear the fidgets? There's certain little fidgety stuff that starts happening. Okay, so we're not done, but what's going to happen next is there is another 2 cards in your packet that look like this. It only takes one action to start a ripple effect. That metaphor is not new to AEE. We've used that one a lot, and I love it for so many reasons. On the back of this card, it has this here. What is one action item that I could do, that you could do, that would really benefit AEE? What I want you to do is think about that. It doesn't have to be big. It could be small. But what I want you to do in a minute, but not yet, I'm gonna have you populate. I want you to write the same thing on both cards. You got 2 cards there. One's for you, and one is for somebody else here in the audience that you're gonna pick that's going to be your accountability partner. This is going to be someone that you've got room there to write their name, their email address, their phone number. And then I want you to set a calendar invite at least 30 days from now, that then you're like, okay, hey, we're gonna check in 30 days from now. Have you done anything on your accountability item, on that one action item that you could do to help AEE? We get to be the ones that actually move this organization into the future, but it is a volunteer organization. We need Beverlys out there, right? Who are those that are gonna step up and be our big B's, Beverlys, Bobs, Brian, whoever the B's are, right? Oh, very good point. You don't put your own information. Well, wait a second. Okay, accountability partner's name. So one of them you're gonna give, okay, that's true. I didn't think that through very well, did I? Facilitator fail. Okay, so you basically, it's a space for you to trade information. You're gonna give one of them to your accountability partner that has your information on it. The other one you're gonna keep. And so you're gonna put your accountability's phone number, email address, and things like that on the other one. So one should be your information that you will give away. The other will be their information once you select this person. Better instructions right there. See, I just crashed and burned. I wiped myself off, and then I just got right back up, right? Oh, I did get it right? It's on there? Okay, yes. Yeah, okay, all right. Maybe I did do it right. Okay. Okay, are you there? You got it? Okay, some of you are still like, no, I'm still thinking. It's totally fine. I am also on a time schedule though. So here's what we're gonna do. I want you to partner up with anybody here in the room. And I want you to not only share your action item, but I also want you to share what's one thing we're doing well, one thing that we should be careful of, and one thing we should stop doing. Voice it out into the world, put that energy out there so that we can become better. So find your accountability partner. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to do this. So about 2.5 minutes apiece. Ready, go. All right, go ahead and find your way back to your seats. Make sure you exchange information. I got about 2 minutes left. I'm gonna pass you back over to either Amy or anybody else. Okay, all right, so it's one thing to say it and write it down, it's another to do it, right? The other thing about the Beverlys is that Beverly was such a fantastic role model in our community for so long. There were a lot of Beverlys in my hometown. I have some of the fondest memories of the best grown-ups that were in my community. I wanted to be just like them because people will follow what they see you do rather than what you say, right? So everyone hold your finger up like this. Take that index finger and just put it right on your chin. All right, now most people's chins are down here. All right, how many of you followed what I did rather than what I said? You look good though doing it. You totally did, right? And so here's the thing, the crazy thing, the words just came out of my mouth. People will follow what you do rather than what you say. We need action. We need to have people leading the way, being the good role models for this organization that will take us into the next 50 years and beyond. So I know that I just totally nailed you with that. Okay, so that right there is mirror neurons. When people see other people excited and engaged, it engages those mirror neurons in our brains as if we were doing it ourselves, and we want to be a part of that group. We want to belong. We want to experience, see, and feel those same things. So there's one final card in there that looks like you probably saw the big globes on the ground at registration when you came in. Whatever action item you just put down on that card, we also want you to sign those big globy tarps. What is your action item? What is the thing that you could do to really help take AEE into the future? We need you. We see you, we need you, and we're excited to really help build the next 50 years of AEE with you. So thank you guys so much for letting me be a part of this. So thank you.